Hey guys, welcome to your YouTube homework review. Your secret word is Mr. Mice. And this week on your homework, we've been finding the mean, median, mode, and range. But tonight was the first time I actually gave you the data in what's known as a frequency table. Oh, I already have it written there. But it's the same idea. In a frequency table, each x, or each point, represents a different number in the data set. So since there's one x over the number 1, that's telling us that 1 is one of the values. I said 1 a lot there. It helps to think about what these values are. So this is supposed to be a frequency table that's keeping data on different section sheet scores. So I'm just going to take them off of here and make a list. So we have 1, 1. Then on top of 2, we have 3 x's. So that's saying this, 2, 2, and 2. On top of the 3, we have 2 x's. So I'm going to do a 3 and a 3. We have 1 x on 4, which means we just have one 4. And we have 2 x's on 5, which means we have a 5 and another 5. Once you've taken your data and you've moved it to a list, then it's just going to be the same as any other statistics problem. So reviewing it, we're going to start by finding the mean. The mean is what we would get if we were to add all of these numbers together and find the sum. And when you take the sum of all these numbers, we get 27. But that's not the mean, because it wouldn't make sense for the average of these small numbers to be as big as 27. We have to remember that we need to divide by the total amount of numbers in the data set. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to do 27 divided by 9, which is going to give us 3, which makes a lot more sense as the average score, because this class had a couple low ones, a couple really high ones. On average, their score is about a 3. To find the median, we would need to put the numbers in order, which they actually already are because of the frequency table, and then we just have to find the exact center. So let's find the center of these numbers. I'm going to start crossing off the extremes on the ends. And this is one of the easy medians to find because it's an odd number of numbers, so there's an exact center, which in this problem also happens to be 3. The mode is whichever number, or in this case, whichever section sheet score shows up the most. And the cool thing about a frequency table is it's basically whichever stack is the highest. So if we look at 2, we can tell that we have 3 of those, and with the other numbers either only occur twice or once or not at all. So in this case, the mode is 2. And if that didn't make sense, you could also look over here and be like, oh yeah, 2 shows up more than any other number. Finally, the range is how spread out the numbers are. And again, that's the maximum minus the minimum value. So in this case, we can see the numbers go all the way up to 5 and go all the way down to 1. And so how far apart those are, that's the range. And we can figure out that distance by doing 5 minus 1, or the biggest number minus the smallest number, which is going to equal 4. So hopefully you're able to get that off of a frequency table and you'll be okay for number 2. Alright, so welcome to the back. This one, you have to read it carefully, because if you're just kind of doing things automatically, you might think to yourself, oh, I'm just going to divide and try to find 1 like we've been doing. But if you read this problem, that's not what it's asking. It says, Mr. Sarley, the slowest teacher, yeah, that's true, ran 1.5 miles per day on 4 days last week. How many total miles did he run last week? So let's figure out, if we want to set this up in a ratio table, what it would look like. So we have miles and days. And now be really careful here. It says, I ran 1.5 miles per day You really have to look at that carefully because it's easy to think, oh, 1.5 goes with 4, but it doesn't in this case. 1.5 miles, that's the amount per day or per one day. So I'm going to put 1.5 for the miles, and for the number of days, I'm just going to put 1. And then it says I did that for 4 days. And how many total miles did I run? So this is what the problem is asking us to find. How many miles I ran in 4 days. Once we have that set up, there's a couple ways you could solve it. The first way you could do it is just to scale up by multiplying. So we have to figure out 1.5 times 4. There were a lot of mistakes on last week's homework when people tried doing a mixed number times a whole number. So a couple things to remember. 1.5 times 4, that literally means this. It's just 1.5 added to itself 4 times. And that's why when you multiply by a mixed number, we're going to distribute the 4 times the 1 and the 4 times the 1/2. 4 times 1, that's the same as 1, 2, 3, 4 wholes. And then 4 times a half, well, that would give you, we have a half and a half as a whole, and another half would be another whole. So that would give you 2, which is a total of 6. And in case that was confusing, it kind of came out sounding confusing. 4 times 1 would be 4, and then 4 times 1/2, well, that's just 4 halves, which is the same as 2, and then 4 wholes and another 2 wholes would be 6. So in this case, the answer is, in 4 days, I ran 6 miles. If you wanted to do it without multiplying, you could also do a double number line, sort of like we were doing on the backs of part A and part B. But this time we're just kind of scaling up. So the problem says in 1 day I go 1.5 miles. And we're trying to get to 4 days. So I'm going to scale up 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. And then every day, I'm going to go another 1.5 miles. So 1.5 plus 1.5, well, the 1 plus 1 is 2, and a half would be another whole, so that would be 3. And then, if I go up another 1.5, 1.5 plus 3 would be 4.5, and then 4.5 plus 1.5, that would be 6. So that would be another way that you can get to your answer of 6 miles, and you could have even shown that in the ratio table if you wanted to. So I hope this made sense. See if you can do the rest on your own, and I'll see you later.